I modded a Terraria world so that every single block would be corrupted. That means all stone is ebon stone, all ice is purple ice, you get the point. The world is one giant corruption biome. And today, I'm gonna be taking on the behemoth that is hard mode. But like I said, this entire world is corrupted. That means no hollow, no jungle for Pantera spawns, no chlorophyte. Will I even be able to defeat the Moon Lord? Well, firstly, I need to upgrade my armor. So I head to the real corruption, which is surprisingly hard to find when the whole world looks like this, to crack open some demon altars for those delicious hard mode ores. After grabbing a bunch of cobalt and enough oral cum for an anvil, a blood moon rises, so I decide to use this opportunity to go to the corrupted desert and farm for a dark shard to craft an onyx blaster. The onyx blaster is nice because not only is it a great gun for this point in the game, but it can also be crafted without any resources from the hollow, which we still don't have access to. I go back into the underground to get the remaining souls that I need, and honestly I start to just get really tilted here. You see, hard mode corruption enemies are way harder than just the normal hard mode enemies. Instead of dealing with the usual skeleton archers and giant bats, there are clingers on every single corner, and corruptors that manage to spit their stupid gunk inside the tiniest cracks every single time. Regardless, I'm able to get enough souls of night to craft the onyx blaster. I noticed that it's raining, so I head over to the snow biome to test out my new weapons on some ice golems. I have hopes of grabbing some frost cores for armor, and an ice feather for some wings wouldn't be bad either. I kill it and grab my frost core. I go back to looking for some more hard mode ore, and I'm actually able to use the corrupted world to my advantage. You see, while there's no actual jungle biome since it's all been corrupted, the world still generated a jungle that I can go through. This gives me a ton of open caves that I can easily traverse through, picking up tons of hard mode ore along the way. After getting a decent amount of gear, I decide it's time to start addressing the first big problem of this run, the lack of hollowed biome. Obviously, we need the hollow, as souls of light are required to crafting the summoning items for 2 of the 3 mechanical bosses. And while we have no hollow in our world, we can buy hollowed seeds from the dryad for surprisingly cheap. And while the solution is easy, the execution, not so much. You see, it was pretty easy for us to craft a non-corrupt surface biome by just building up, but we don't have to create just a regular hollowed biome. In order to be able to farm souls, it must be a caverns hollowed biome, which means we gotta go all the way down here and hollow, no pun intended, out a huge area for us to build our artificial hollow biome. In order for the hollow to properly spread down there, we gotta make sure we get rid of all of this corruption. What precedes is perhaps the most grueling 6 hours of my life. Head down to the cavern, throw 3 pieces of dynamite, spend 10 minutes killing these 7,000 corruptors that have spawned around me, die from some random clinger I never saw, head down to the caverns again, over and over and over again. And the more I clear out my eventual farm, the more open the space around me becomes, making it just that much easier for enemies to rush towards me and insta-kill me. I sure do love this game. For some reason, the hollow grass that I placed in the corrupt caverns doesn't seem to be spreading, so I decide to start a little pearlstone farm back up on the surface for it to grow in the meantime. I go back into the mines and dynamite the holy hell out of the area I want to use as a farm, doing my best to fight as few enemies as possible. But I still die many times. Eventually, I run out of money for explosives and just start manually mining the area out. Through my continued attempts to clear out this area, I actually got enough souls of night to craft myself some demon wings, which I don't think I've crafted since I was like 14 years old playing this game. Additionally, it starts raining again during all this clearing, and I take the time to get the remaining frost cores I require. I do this in a very honoring way, and in no way absolutely cheese them. After some more hours of cleaning out the underground, I decide to take a break by trying to fight the destroyer, and that goes, well, just about as well as you'd think it would. After my embarrassing defeat, I head back to the super duper fun task of banging my head against the wall until this entire area is fully clear. Finally, I've destroyed enough blocks to have enough space to make on my farm, so I go back down with some pearlstone I've been growing on the surface and some purification powder to grab some more stone to be converted into pearlstone. I realize that if I just go about this normally, I'll never be able to fight off the onslaught of corruption enemies that keep spawning, so I'm forced to slowly tunnel my way around as I build out my farm. And for the first time, I see those sacred colors. Colors I've been longing to see for 5 hours now. As I start building out my farm, I see the beautiful background of the normal caverns layer. The absence of purple brings a tear to my eye. Back, foul clingers! You shall torment me no longer! You have no power in the normal— oh, we're back in the purple. And after all that work, a full 6 hours in, I finally get my first hollowed enemy to spawn and pick up a soul of light. And soon after that, I have my full farm working. It's not perfect. In fact, there are tons of places where it could be improved, which I end up doing further down the line. But it works pretty well and allows me to farm up tons of souls of light, money, and a ton of other goodies like beam swords and magic quivers. I definitely should not have built the side layers out of pearlstone though, as it allows annoying enemies like the enchanted sword to spawn in and kill me here while I try to AFK. Luckily, this death brought me home just in time to greet the goblin army that was attacking my base. I try and drag out the event as long as possible so that I can get as many goblin summoner spawns as possible with hopes of picking up the Shadow Flame knife, which I unfortunately do not get to drop. With all that finished up, I decide it's time to AFK in my soul farm and wait for the goodies to come pouring in. A blood moon happens as well, which rocket ships the amount of drops I can get. Even though getting the amount of souls I need shouldn't be too hard, I drained any and all coins that I had buying all the dynamite I need to clear out this plot. And we're gonna need even more dynamite for the next thing we're gonna do, which has gotta be fight some bosses. Right? We've gathered up all the souls we could possibly need, and it must finally be some time for some action-packed boss fights, right? No. That would be fun, and there's no fun allowed in this challenge. For now, we actually have to set up another biome. You probably realize this by now, but our corrupted world is missing not one, but two very important biomes, the Hollow and the Jungle, and it takes a long time for the jungle to spread. So, if I AFK while I let my artificial jungle biome grow, I'll be double dipping my AFK time. Make sense? I go over to my surface and start blasting open a giant area to build our second artificial biome. Thankfully, Plantera can be fought in the underground jungle and doesn't require the caverns layer like my hollowed farm did. And the underground layer is just below the surface. This makes setting this up way easier, as I can just chuck dynamite from the surface until there's a wide open area. And every time I run out of dynamite, I can just go back to my AFK farm. As I'm farming though, I teleport back to my base briefly and have a small oopsie with a stick of dynamite in my hotbar, blowing up a good chunk of my houses. I take this opportunity to completely rebuild my base, as this general setup was pretty horrifying. So you know, it was actually a good thing that I blew up my entire base. After a bit more bombing, I finally finish up my giant non-corrupt area, which means I can start creating a new biome here. I place down some mud blocks and plant my very first mushroom grass seed. And if you don't see how this is gonna help us get a jungle, you'll see soon enough. But I got these seeds by just going down to the glowing mushroom biome and farming until a seed dropped. And with that all set up, all we have to do now is wait. So I sit on my farm, leave my computer on, and go play some Persona 5. But I guess while I was AFK, something killed me and teleported me home. And then the destroyer spawned and obliterated my NPCs, which, you know, was not super nice of him. I come back to my computer after AFKing for a full hour, and progress is, wow, that is almost impressive how terrible that is. I built out the rest of the biome and then put my little guy to sleep while I, fight shadows. After AFKing for a long time, I have tons of souls of light, so I decided to grind some hollowed mimics, both for money and because I'm hoping to grab myself a daedalus stormbow. Which, yeah, I know, that's what every single person playing this game does, but I like the stormbow, okay? Okay, it's a good weapon. I grind out some holy arrows in my above ground hollow and finish out my frost armor. With all the accessories that I've dropped from my farm and the corrupted enemies, I'm actually able to craft an ox shield as well, which, you know, doesn't really help me at all in this run, but it is kind of cool that I made it before beating a single mechanical boss. I decide that I'm finally ready to take on the destroyer. Just 18 hours into recording. Nice. I decided to take him on in my Plantera arena since I already had it completely prepped anyway. I spawn the destroyer in, and the second the mechanical worm leaves my inventory, I get distracted by some, ooh, shiny armor, and I completely forget that I'm supposed to be fighting a giant boss, so I take a giant hit from his head. This results in me dying several seconds later, which serves as a great reminder for me to always take my ADHD medication before recording. I go down to hell and take on the wall flesh because I realized I was doing this all without a ranger emblem. Just in another impeccable, brilliant Shawnee moment. After 2 go-arounds with the wall, I pick it up and decide to take on the Queen Slime now instead of the Destroyer, because her mount is going to make this all a whole lot easier. She goes down extremely easy as I just jump around her and shoot her down with holy arrows from my Stormbow. I even take her on a second time just to farm some extra drops. Now, fully equipped with my Queen Slime mount, I'm a lot more prepared to take on the Destroyer. So I summon him in for hopefully the final time, unless something shiny appears on the screen again. Then I'm probably the Queen Slime mount makes the battle way easier. As long as you fly around the head, you can just bounce off the body. The holy arrows also make taking out the probes much easier. Look, you know the drill. You're watching an obscure Terraria Challenge on YouTube. You know about the worms and the stormbows. After only a couple minutes of dodging, I can take him out. In fact, the whole fight only took 2 in-game hours, so I decided to summon him in again. And the fight was just so unbearably easy that I'm bound to... After challenging the Destroyer only one time, and I only did it once, because why would it make any sense to do it anymore after that? I head to the ocean and farm some sharks for their fins and craft myself a mega shark. I proceed to reforge it to godly as well, as I anticipate using this for a good long while. It turns morning and probably the most important NPC of this run moves in, the steampunker, which is probably the first time anyone has ever said that. I open up her shop menu and finally purchase a, crab.
Surprise, motherfucker.
purchase a contaminator and a bunch of green solution. Why, you might ask? Well, if you don't know, you can preserve your jungle biome by loading up the contaminator with blue solution and turning it into the glowing mushroom biome. This was added to Terraria as it resists the world's evil and prevents it from engulfing the jungle. Then, once you've quelled said evil and you want to convert it back to a jungle biome, you can just purify it using the contaminator. This is hugely helpful to us, as the current version of the game I'm playing in, there is no shimmer, so this is the only way for us to generate an artificial jungle biome. So I take the giant glowing mushroom biome I had made and run it down with the contaminator and finally see that sweet, sweet jungle grass. Finally overcoming the biggest hurdle that this run has to offer, or at least I thought it would be, because it gets much, much worse. Night strikes and it's time to take on the twins. All my holy arrow grinding, I was actually able to get myself a blessed apple, so with my mount in combination with my mega shark, I'm able to pretty easily take out the twins. I just focus on spasmatism first, and once he's gone, just hurl crystal bullets at Retinazer. With them down, it's just time to clean up Skeletron Prime. For this one, I opt to go back to my sky bridge, use the Queen Slime mount, and attack with the Daedalus Stormbow with holy arrows. Once again, I make pretty short work of him. I don't know if it's because I always fight him last, but I don't think I've ever struggled with Skeletron Prime once in my entire life. Regardless, with the Angry Skull dead, I decide to craft myself a set of hollowed armor, which actually is going to be our last set of armor in this game. Because we don't have an actual jungle biome in our world, there's no chlorophyte for us to collect, which makes the rest of this run extremely difficult. I mean, for now, we're fine, but once we get up to the pillars with our dinky little armor, things are going to become a lot harder. Now that I'm all armored up, I go down and check on our jungle, and it looks like a Plantera bulb has already spawned. I don't know why, but for some reason, I was really worried that since it wasn't a true jungle biome, the bulb just wouldn't spawn in. Now that the bulb has grown, I can rest easy. I decide to sleep for a very long time with hopes of getting some life fruit to spawn in and make things a lot lighter. I sleep for a long time. So while I'm sleeping, let me explain to you why exactly I engineered my jungle biome to look so strange. My main concern when building out this world would be that I would make my arena too large so that it wouldn't technically be considered in the jungle at certain points on the screen. This is bad, obviously, because then Plantera would shift to her enraged form, making this fight 10 times harder. So I make a semi-small arena with this little blob in the middle to ensure that no matter where I went, there would always be some jungle blocks on screen. I get about half of the life fruit I need before being attacked by a solar eclipse. I'm fighting the event and dying a ton before realizing, yeah, there's nothing I need from this event. So I decide to just wait the event out. After it's over, I stocked up on ammo and then decide it's time to take on Plantera. I break open the bulb and take refuge in my arena. For this battle, I opted to use the Mega Shark with crystal bullets once again. I have a huge influx of the stuff since my Souls farm is made out of Pearlstone. I can just constantly grab them while I am checking on my AFK adventures. Back to the fight though, and phase 1 is relatively easy as the arena I've made doesn't give Plantera a lot of room to corner me. She stays stuck in that middle chunk I've placed, making just circling around her over and over again extremely easy. Once she gets into her second phase, things get a little bit more difficult. I definitely made too many platforms here, and all they really do is slow my descent, giving this planty gal just all the more time to catch up with me. However, despite this, I'm able to kite her pretty nicely, and after a tough fight, I'm able to take her down. Now, our next step is trying to take on Golem, and while you might be wondering, well, if this is our jungle biome, where's your temple? Well, you foolish fool! Just because the corruption took over the jungle doesn't mean it's not still there. Exploring through the jungle here is actually easier than exploring through a hard mode jungle though, as the underground corruption is much less overwhelming than the real jungle. So, point 1 for Corrupted World. We make our way through the temple and everything is, just as it usually is. So we make our way through and eventually summon in Golem. And I hadn't realized this, but in this patch, Relogic had done a rework on Golem to make him a lot harder. Honestly, I remember Golem being a kind of a breeze, but I did not even stand a chance against his new attack. Yep, that's right, the Golem went into my CPU and crashed my game. Well, it was either that or it was the fact that I had the calculator open. I hear that's just a huge RAM hog. Regardless, I equip myself with my new compressed air accessory, go back to the temple, and yeah, that is in the title of the video after all. I make my way back to the temple again, and I realize that the crash made me lose all my progress here, so I have to go ahead and rebuild that arena. With that all ready, I throw my paracel into the altar. One thing I forgot to mention is that my temple arena is kind of small. I don't know, the walls summoned in all weird, and I had less space to maneuver around, and actually I didn't even think I was the one playing. I think it was my dog, and looks like my PC crashed again. He crashed my PC again and I lost the footage, and that's what happened. After restarting my computer, I go to the temple one last time to finally take on my new swarm enemy, and you can tell that I was really scared here because I'm whipping out the peace candles. That's how you know a man has had his timbers thoroughly shivered. I spawn in Golem, and this time I opt to use the more damage leading accessories and dodge on my Queen Slime mount, who is slowly becoming becoming the MVP of this run. This time the fight goes a lot easier. Instead of using the Mega Shark, I also used the hollowed repeater with holy arrows. I do not know if the hollowed repeater is a good weapon or not, but one time I saw people using it in a speedrun, and that made me feel like it's a good weapon. Which, now that I think about it, they definitely just use it because it's a required drop from the mech bosses. Also, don't they play on classic mode, not expert? Oh my god! Sean, switch your weapons! You're gonna lose to the easiest boss in the game a third time! Oh, see, I knew there was a reason I was using it. I decide to find him again in attempts to get the Eye of the Golem, but despite shredding through him 4 more times with my magnificent repeater, no such luck, which means no Destroyer emblem for me. And with the Golem down, all we have left is the Pillars and the Moon Lord. So I should be able to get that done in one recording set. How is there 10 hours of footage left? I get invaded by a solar eclipse, and I start using this Stinger as my main weapon. And like, it's been a while since I played Terraria as a ranger, but I know that can't be right. So I die a lot to the solar eclipse, and immediately after a blood moon starts. Man, I just can't catch a break today, huh? For some reason, I decide now is a good time to start fishing for the ebon kois I'll need for the wrath potions, which, you know, is like the one thing you're not supposed to do during a blood moon. Regardless, I do get a good supply of ebon koi. I go on to make another pond underground so I can fish up some armored cave fish for endurance potions as well. With that all settled away, I start gathering my things to head over onto the cultist. But right as I'm leaving, the day ends and another blood moon rises, which is the 3rd event in a row that I've got it. I think, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna go fight the cultists anyway. And on my way there, I run into a Martian probe, and I absolutely do not want them to invade. As I'm staring at the probe, I completely freeze up. Wait, am I supposed to kill it? Or am I supposed to not touch it at all? Should I run away? Should I kiss it? In all my contemplation, the probe sends a signal back to the motherland, and the Martians invade my base. Guess the cultist is gonna have to wait for a little while. For this event, I just kind of sit inside my house with a spore sack equipped and let them do the brunt of the work while I sit in safety. Eventually, a UFO spawns in, which I thought the mount could be nice, but he just absolutely wrecks me. Knowing that a saucer kill is a far-off dream, I let the spore sack finish off the event while I go and bully Mishima. With the Martians defeated, I decided to build up my minecart track across the world. Before I knew how to dodge the Moonlord's attacks, this was the only way I knew how to defeat the Moonlord. That day was yesterday. I'm sure I could beat the Moonlord the regular way if I needed to, but combined with the low defense and DPS of the hollowed armor, this is sure to be a much safer way. After finishing the minecart track, I load up on Thingers. Why am I still using this horrible weapon? I summon in cultists, but when I recorded this, it had been like a while since I had fought him, like everything else in this run, and I forgot the whole mechanic that if you attack the wrong clone, he gets to use all of the other ones to attack you. So I'm doing my best, but he's attacking me with like 7 cultists, and I cannot figure out why I'm getting whooped so hard. I was literally beyond confused, digging through the Terraria wiki, trying to find some patch notes of the cultists being buffed to nigh invincibility. I go to YouTube and type in tips for fighting lunatic cultists, and immediately realize I'm an idiot. With my newfound knowledge, I decide to go in and fight the cultists again, and this time I'm easily able to take him out. And with that, the pillars are started and the final phase of the game has begun. I dash over to the vortex pillar because not only does it give the best weapon, but it's also the easiest, which was a very strange balance choice on behalf of Relogic, but I'm not gonna complain. After defeating the pillar with only a single death, I craft myself a phantasm and banish the Stinger into hell so that I never see it again. Why did I use that for so long? After a quick piggy bank drain at the Goblin Tinkerers, I decide to take on my least favorite pillar and just get it out of the way. And this thing just utterly breaks me. Every time I forget about how much I just hate this pillar. And hollowed armor allows me to take literally 3 hits before I die. And this stupid Sonic the Hedgehog can just spin and spin and spin and bounce all my arrows. So I decide to take on the Stardust pillar first. Now I can go back to the solar pillar with a cute little dragon. Does he do much? No. Does he eternally lift my spirits? Absolutely. And with the power of the Spirit Dragon's smile on my side, I'm able to take down the solar pillar, leaving just 1 more left. I go over to the Nebula pillar and for the first time realize that I'm actually getting better at this game. Like the last time I took the Nebula pillar on for a video, but this time I only died 3 times, which, you know, that's pretty good for me. Feeling fired up from my big win on the Nebula pillar, I am feeling incredible going into the Moonlord. I've gotten so good at Terraria. This is nothing, just a piece of cake for me. Swap out all my accessories to prioritize pure damage and survivability, and remove all my mobility ones because we have a hot date with the mechanical minecart. The Moonlord spawns in, and I rapidly start minecarting away. Despite my new confidence in my Terraria skills, I know better than to trust my abilities to dodge. It's a tense battle where I'm shooting at his eyes rapidly, and then the second he shoots his laser, I shoot forward to outrun it. Everything's going pretty well, actually, until I get hit by one of his lasers by mistake. But surely, as long as I can just outrun the rest of his attacks, I'll be perfectly fine. So I chug down a healing potion and continue firing arrows as hard as I can. And for a moment, things are looking hopeful. Looking like this challenge will finally come to an end, quelling the tens of monthly YouTube comments I get. This is it. I can feel... Okay, so minor setback. But luckily, using all the fragments I had just picked up, I can barely craft a celestial sigil. And surely this time, if I just properly dodge his lasers, the Moon Lord should be a piece of cake. All I have to do is... Okay. Clearly, I am not strong enough to do this in my current form. I'm still using armor from all the way back from the mechanical bosses. And before you comment, well, I actually watch Gungnir and he prefers the hollowed armor because he could beat all of Master Mode using it because of the holy protection effect. I'm not good at this game, okay? He's better at me, okay? But there was one other option. No. Definitely not that. Remember when I said we wouldn't have access to any chlorophyte in this challenge and therefore wouldn't be able to access any class's endgame armors? Well, that was actually a lie. There is in fact one class that doesn't use chlorophyte to make their best pre-Moonlord armor. Summoner. Instead of using chlorophyte to base their armor off of, Summoner's pre-Moonlord armor is the spooky armor, which uses spooky wood, which is a drop from the Pumpkin Moon event. I didn't think to use it because Summoner is generally kind of bad, but at this point it's my only real shot. So it's time for a class shift, baby. I go to the dungeon and grind out some ectoplasm for the Pumpkin Moon medallion. Then I start hollowing out a big open space to fight the event in. For the first couple waves, I can just kind of stand down here and rapidly fire my phantasm around. Then once the morning woods spawn, I start prioritizing them. Morning woods are actually the single most important enemy in the event, as they are the only thing that consistently drops spooky wood. What is kind of the annoying thing about this event though is that when the pumpkins start spawning in, you have to focus all your attention towards them since, you know, they fly. This makes it so I spend less time killing the morning woods and just means I get overall less spooky wood, which is extremely frustrating, but after 3 Pumpkin Moon fights, I finally have enough spooky wood to craft myself a full set of armor. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I am not that experienced with Summoner. It's kind of like your relationship with your mom's boyfriend. Like, yes, I know of you and all the things that you do, but I didn't really want to spend any one-on-one time together. Luckily, I don't really have to worry about summons though, since I have enough Stardust fragments to craft the Dragon Staff, and even I know that's the best summon in the game, I think. I moved the Witch Doctor down to my old Plantera arena, but the area is corrupted, so I go on a big purifying spree around my base so the Witch Doctor can move in. After much trial and error, he does, and I can finally buy the Pygmy Necklace and Hercules Beetle off of him. I also got out of hell and killed the Wall of Fletch a couple times, as I'm gonna need a Summoner emblem. After securing that, I take on the Pumpkin Moon one final time to get the last accessory I need, a Necromantic Scroll. I already managed to get one of them in my many adventures, but since they stack, I figured I'd get one last one to finish out the build. With all that completed, it was time to take on the lunar events. One last time. Fully equipped with my Dragon Staff, I tear down the cultists, whip through the Vortex Pillar, repeatedly fling my flailing corpse at the Solar Pillar, and then it's time for the Stardust Pillar, which I actually realized is much harder when you're a summoner. When you have a summon active, you can't really choose who they target, so instead of just kiting the Stardust cells and waiting for them to regenerate over and over again, instead I just have to fight it like a normal person, which is a shell shock to say the least. But after a couple good scoldings to my Dragon Staff, I take this one down and the Nebula one as well. And just like that, we're face to face with the Moon Lord again, eternally spinning away on our minecarts as our dragon takes him down in the background. And he's chugging all right. After just a pathetic 30 seconds alive, I get blasted to bits by a Moonlord laser, chopping me in half. My hour of work immediately undone. Maybe this wasn't possible. Maybe I'm just not good enough to beat Terraria as a summoner. Maybe I'm just a complete and utter failure this time around. But with one speck of hope flooding around in my heart still, I decide I have to give it one more shot. To fuse my fragments together one last time and form one last celestial sigil. To prove all of the angry YouTube commenters wrong, that I am good at this game and I'm not just some washed up farming game player. I will win. I step out of our minecart, for I know now that if I'm to truly slay the Moonlord, I've got to stand up on my own 2 feet, look him dead in the eyes, and take him out myself. I summon him in one final time for a battle to the death. My strategy this time was to just stay near the nurse in this big arena that I had made. I had set my spawn right here next to the nurse so that whenever I needed to heal, I could just teleport back here. But if you're too far away when you mirror to spawn, the Moonlord will instantly teleport to you. But if you teleport back to spawn and he's still relatively close, he will just move there by himself. This gives you a couple extra seconds to check in with the nurse and make sure you're getting healed. Using this and the crude tutorial I looked up on YouTube, I do much better than any of my other attempts. And just as I think I'm actually gonna win, I dash straight into his laser instead of flying over it, taking out a huge chunk of my health. One more mistake like that, and it's over for me. I've gotten him down to his second phase somehow as my little dragon chips away at his heart. He's getting really low, but right as I'm about to land the finishing blow, a true Eye of Cthulhu lands a laser on me. I click H as fast as I could, but was I quick enough? I look back up at my computer screen and... So yes, you can beat Terraria if your entire world is corrupted. Thanks to everyone for being so patient with the part 2. I hope it was worth the wait, and I'll see you all next time.